All right, guys. Well, sorry if the light's a little bright. Let me move it real quick. It should be done though. Sorry, just I had to redo the camera. So mm, there, it's pointing to the corner. I should be pretty visible. I got a new webcam. My old webcam broke. But without further ado, welcome to class, guys. I am your instructor. If you ever have any questions, some of the stuff I talk about here is confusing, please email me, message me on Canvas. That's usually the best way to get a hold of me. Office hours are Fridays, 7:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. I think is what I have on there, but I'm always there and it's up. And just keep in mind, I am at work when those office hours are happening. So if I'm in there but I'm not responding, give me a couple minutes because I'm usually running around campus fixing stuff or solving things. So, you know, that's usually how this goes for me because I'm remote and obviously I am recording. So you guys won't see this till probably tomorrow, sometime during the week. So let's get into it. So welcome to CTIS 17, and we're going to be talking about network and system administration to get started off. This is a system admin course where we cover, desktops, servers. We're going to talk about Windows, Linux a little bit later down the line, and virtualization and all that fun stuff. If you have me for networking, some of this or server, I'm sorry, some of this will be seem familiar. And yes, I do use some of the lectures for networking because it's the same topics to cover in here. You'll have that already. The slides have been updated, things along that nature. What also we're going to be covering, I'm thinking off the top of my head, we'll be making users in Windows. If you need help with that, again, there will be videos I have posted about how to do it. If you get stuck, again, just reach out. All right, so let's dive into the topic here. Let's go to the next slide here, see where we're going today. By me, truly, so that's not that big of a deal. So here's what I'm covering. Intro to network and system administration. This is what this is covering in this PowerPoint. The second PowerPoint covers network fundamentals, and that'll be posted right after this in there, so it'll be pretty updated. And let's get into it. So what is a system administrator? And it's defined as one who manages computers and network systems on behalf of another, such as an employee or client, or client. So employer, like who? Private entities like Microsoft, Google, restaurant chains, like McDonald's, Taco Bell, Del Taco, which is my personal favorite, Coca-Cola, a bunch of different brands. Another kind of employer is called a public employer, government employer, kind of like me. I work for Rancho Community School District, Rancho Community College School District. I work for a community college. So that's also an employer, but they're public. A client, that's if you're doing negotiations and you do side businesses, you have your own personal business, you will have what's called a client, and you work as a contractor, that kind of thing. So system administrators are the people who make things work and keep it all running. Well, yeah, that makes sense. You're administering, right? So what does even administering mean? You're in charge of a bunch of different things and you do a bunch of different things. So in reality, a system administrator looks after computers, networks, and the people who use them. So you're in charge of three things: technology, the network that technology uses, and tidbit here, the reason we network in general, and computers and life, you build your network of people, yada, yada, yada. The reason we network is to share resources. So that's one of the main reasons, main takeaways from networking, okay? And people, we're there to help people. We're there to keep things running. If something goes down when you're at work and you're an administrator, you got to figure out why it's broken. But we'll get more into that a little bit further in these slides. So a system administrator may look after hardware, operating systems, software, configurations, applications, or security. You kind of do touch on all those topics, and I will be touching on those more in depth again further later down the line in different units. This is just, again, just general overview, okay? Now we'll get into a little bit of troubleshooting and dealing with people vaguely, not too much, okay? So here we go. So what's, if you look at it from the system administrator's point of view, well, system administrators guidelines, which just make up, the philosophy, the thoughts we had to start administration are, you got to automate everything. Well, why would you want to automate everything? Well, let me give you an example. I work for a community college, like I stated a little bit earlier, and my job, when I have to go deploy a computer lab, it's usually at minimum, I'm trying to think how many machines a computer lab can be. Let's say it can be 10, for a real small lab up to maybe 150. We do have a big business division area that has 150 plus machines. So if I had to go in there and install Windows off a flash drive for every machine, how much time will that take me? 10 machines might take me, I don't know. Off a flash drive installing Windows usually takes about 20 minutes. If it's an SSD, let's say everything's an SSD, just for the sake of argument, SSD means solid state drive. which is no more moving parts, like a big old flash drive. I won't get into that right now, but let's just say for the sake of argument, all the machines are that. For 10 machines, about 20 minutes, so 20 times 10, that's 200 minutes. So what? A little over 2 hours, almost 3 hours to image everything. That could take a while now. 150 machines, I'll take you a month, if not more, just to image it off of a flash drive, which I don't have on me, but I'm sure you guys know what a flash drive looks like. Well, in terms of automation, how we usually automate everything is we do it off of a server, which we'll make a server and do stuff with it. Don't worry, we'll get to there. And we host what's called the image on there. So when we go to network boot, it runs a script. We will do scripting more. And it picks it up like, hey, I'm a new machine, deploy Windows to me. Okay. And then it just goes off to the races. You leave it alone. So you can go do other things, help people, document stuff. And that's what's next on here is document everything. Well, why would you want to document everything and anything in the sense of your job? Well, I mean, hey, I did this change. Hey, keep a rolling log in the sense of, today I helped out user. I use Bob a lot. So, I helped Bob in accounting. He was having an issue with Excel. It wasn't configuring his Excel text correctly. Okay, cool. Make a note of it. So this way, if it happens in the future, you can also reference back to it. And if they say, oh, well, it wasn't fixed, oh, well, here I have this thing called a log. And look, here's your work order, which I'll show you what work orders look like. I'll remote in to my work terminal. I'll show you in a minute. But communicate as much as possible. Yeah, you gotta let people know what you're doing. But normally, when that happens, here's the thing: communication is very key, like boss know. But usually, you can tell you're busy no matter what. If you know you're sitting there, twiddling your thumbs all day, that's different. But you send an email to a user, reach out on a software called MS Teams that you can communicate people as well, or email them, and so you can get a hold of them. They'll know, hey, I'm looking at your issue or what's going on, or hey, I'll be there around this time, or hey, when are you free? One of the main things to take away is you don't work on their time; they work on your time. Well, why do I say that? Because it gets very busy, believe it or not, being a system administrator. You have a lot of things pending. You have projects going in the background. You have tasks going in the background. You have a million things on your plate, and well, you might be in the office. Yeah, I mean, that's great. I'm, sitting in my chair, but I'm clacking away, making a script, or I'm calling people, or I'm typing, talking to people, emailing people. You're always doing something. So just because it looks like you're sitting in your office not doing anything, air quotes, because, what do we have you for? Everything's working versus what do we have you for? Everything's broken. That's like people kind of see it, but pardon me. Depending where you work, people will understand that you're busy. So that's why you communicate, hey, and the reason I tell them that they work on your time, not you work on their time, is you gotta take lunch, guys. I know it sounds weird coming from me, but sometimes you need that break in the day where like, I gotta go eat, I gotta leave, I don't want to be in the office, like I need to go away versus, everything get piled up, I can't take my lunch, I'm swarmed. It's a nightmare and you try to avoid that. So knowing your resources, moving on from that, is where your software's kept, know where you keep your manuals, because you need manuals sometimes. Let's face it, guys. Even personally, I don't know everything either. If you guys have a question, I don't have an answer for you. It will happen. Give me a day or two to look it up and see what I can find out that we can hash it together. It's just that's a life coach. So people look at you to be like this oracle of technology. That's why you guys are here to learn, and I understand that. But again, you're not going to know everything. I'm not going to know everything, believe it or not. But know your resources. Know what to Google when you're trying to figure out an issue, because that happens. Believe it or not, Google can save your butt. Know where to look. Reddit sometimes has the answers you're looking for. So Microsoft Communities have the answers that you're looking for. But you got to be kind of specific in how you word things. That's why knowing your resources, like, oh, well, for example, I'll give you like an IP issue. Like, well, this machine has an IP of 192.168.72.69. Normally, .62, sorry, .69.72, 192.168. That normally is the default IP that Windows will give itself when it can't get a network connection. And I know a lot of you will not know that. Maybe a few of you will because you've seen it. But that's something you just learn and pick up as you go. And that's why I go, oh, wait a minute. If you see that, you're like, well, wait a minute, it can't see the network. Why can't it see the network? Is it unplugged? You gotta learn how to troubleshoot too. And I'll get into that a little more in these slides. But I'm just giving you a general example of resources that you would know. Over time, you build up your own resources. I mean, like I said, again, I don't know everything, but running into issues, you realize like, oh, this is happening before like this has worked like this. You will get there. Okay. The other thing is to know your users. Look, depending where you work, how you work at a hospital, it's public sector, something a school, you get to know the people a little more, not intimately, but on a personal level, because they're pretty friendly and they'll understand you're working on it, and they're usually pretty good. But personally, I have worked at a for-profit school prior where people don't really respect what you do and don't understand what you do. And they, again, think you don't do anything. So you can see the two sides of the coin, and it can be very jarring when you're like, oh, hey, well, I need help. Okay, Did you log a request? Did you put in a work order? Because at the end of the day, that's how they track you based on your work orders. I keep bringing it up. I will show them. Don't worry, I'll remote in. And again, your users, you understand, oh, this person can be a little fickle, maybe approach them a little differently. This person's pretty easygoing. Let me talk to them, tell them, hey, I'll be with you when I can. And it's again, customer service. That's what also I should mention by know your users is customer service is a very important thing in this facet of industry that people don't really seem to acknowledge that much anymore. And I'm not saying, you guys aren't going to be treating people with respect on it, but treat them and show them, hey, talk to them and make them understand, like, hey, this is a problem you're having. I want to make sure, you said this is what's going on. Can you show me? Because if you get them involved, you understand, because people get frustrated when things don't work right. I'll give an example. Sometimes I work on my car. I change out parts, right? Well, one bolt gets stuck, and that 5-minute job just turned into a 10-minute job because that bolt is just not playing nice. You get frustrated. Same thing would happen to people with computers. Not everyone has computer knowledge or rather skills, and they're still learning. We're all lifelong learners, guys. Like I say, even I don't know everything, but it's a fact of life. So know your business. What do you work in? Do you work in public sector? Do you work in private sector? How fast paced is it? What do they need? What are the main needs of the corporation / entity you're working for? Because it could be mainly handling people and data, or it can be handling, you handle people and data anywhere you go, but it can be more of like white glove. What do you mean white glove? You're dealing with like CEOs, you're dealing with loan officers, financial or whatever. And they can be a very fickle bunch. So again, that's what it also means by know your business. It's a really fast pace. So they need things tomorrow, they barely told you today. That's things you have to learn how to balance. And I use my hands when I talk. Sometimes I'm not Italian, don't worry, but I'm not doing this to offend anybody, but it's just so I can get a point across. That's the only reason I say things this way or use show my hands. Yes, I am wearing a Skyline t-shirt. I get it. I am a car guy also. So secure the system. Security is a very major point. You probably heard of the hacks that have happened in the news, or what happened last semester with Merced, and I think it was it spring this year or something around there. They had a networking issue, it was an incident. I won't get into it. It's all as administrators, and usually it's not the administrator's fault. Something breaks, and sadly enough, it's usually the user. Sometimes you'll see those emails. I'm not sure if you get them, but I get them all the time here in Merced, where it says, "Oh, what was it? Employee wasn't an employee. It was crap. Give me a minute. I'm trying to remember what it was. Internship. Click here. That's this link. You follow it. You request all your information, then until they break it to your account, it causes a whole big issue. Again, it happens. So another thing you gotta do is plan ahead. So machines, believe it or not, don't last forever. I'll be honest with you guys. The tower I have right now, I built. Good Lord, how long did I build this computer? Let's put it this way: it's a 9th generation i9, which sounds amazing. Maybe like 5 generations ago, but now we're up to the 14th generation. I'm not saying I need the latest and greatest, but my i9 is starting to have issues in the sense of like it's getting long in the tooth, it's getting old. You got to plan for the future no matter what, and things got to get replaced, updated, upgraded. Normally that cycle is every 5 years, depending on your budget. But again, that's something I'll cover a little more in these slides a little bit later. Just giving you a slight preview, but this is just the overview of what I'm talking about in general from the viewpoint of a system admin. And then you got to expect the unexpected. Well, what do you mean? So, you can plan out your day. I'm going to work on this today. I'm going to patch this. I'm going to, automate a task. What if that server updated last night and the update didn't go through successfully and it broke something? You weren't expecting that, right? Again, expect the unexpected. But that's why we test things in a different environment. I'll talk about that more later when we get there with the virtualization and stuff. That's unit 3, by the way. And we'll get there. Don't worry. Let's move on to slide 5. So as I mentioned, automate everything. Why would you want to automate everything? Well, like I said about Windows, say about 4 or 5 minutes ago now. Why would you want to go and do everything manually in the sense of flash drive here, flash drive there, and then just F12, boot to the network, point to your imaging server, have it doing, and go do whatever else you got to do. So you can examine almost everything you do to be automated. For example, when people put in work orders, that's usually automated now. We don't have to write anything out. It just gets generated from an email and gets sent to whomever randomly. You can also do disk space. You can have it check and report back to you on the server. You can set all that up through scripting. Again, we'll probably do something like that. I'm still working on those labs, so do bear with me if I ever give you guys a unit on Sunday with no labs. Know that I'm working on it, and I would probably have them get them like half of them done by Sunday, whether half Monday, and I would extend the due date to like a Tuesday. And while I'm at it, I know I did not mention this at the beginning of the video, and if you watch this far, Thank you for sticking with my goop self because I can be a pain in the butt. But I normally post things on Sunday and everything's normally due the following Sunday. I rarely give extensions. If you're having issues, you need more time, please let me know. I'm pretty flexible. But if hypothetically, I don't know, you're having a family emergency, just again, let me know. I don't need that many specifics. Just let me know what's going on. Again, I'm pretty easy to work with. Some of you have had me, you guys will know that. Again, I'm here for you guys. You need a letter of rec, you want me to look over your resume, let me know, email me. I'll talk about Discord later during orientation, which will be Tuesday, by the way. I'll have an announcement about it probably Monday night, or no, Monday in general. So still working on it, guys. It's actually Sunday, the day before class starts, so I barely finished these slides. It's been a very rough week. I barely got the syllabus last night because it was out of date. And long story short, it was just all over the place. But back to this. I know I segue out of it, and I do apologize. But talking about automation, your backups. I don't think you want to do your backups manually all the time. That's something that's been automated for quite some time. But when talking about backups in general, I will mention a couple forms of backing up, but when we get there, we will get there. So, sorry, I'm checking for something because it's recording, but I'm looking for my record tools. But we should be fine. Yeah, we're good. All right. No worries, guys. Sorry, just in case somebody decides to pop in, that's what kind of happens when I record over here in my office. So system performance data collection, that's a report that's generated usually by your server that you can get given to you, just pop in, just loads it. It's usually somewhere under event viewer, if I remember correctly, because you get logs. Don't deal with it too much, that's why, but it's something you see here and there. That's a truck turning on, don't worry about it, people are leaving. Then user account maintenance. So what do I mean by user account maintenance? What do I mean, you guys create users, you got to delete users. Normally the deletion though part, I know the slides I made it, but the deletion part to be automated, it's kind of that's kind of a gray area, because if it's a user that's been with the company forever, you're not going to tell it to automatically delete it once they leave. You can set it that way, or you do it manually. 9 times out of 10, you do it manually for one reason. You want to make sure all of their information's gone, so they don't have access to your network or anything if they come back, or they leave and try to come back that same, next day after they've retired or whatever, and then oh, it's gone, dude. Sorry, but that's just policy. That's something I'll talk about too. So a lot of business specific functions, I have noted in there a couple, like web servers, those can be automatically updated, patched, monthly, quarterly, yearly reports, all that can be automated. But you can usually delegate those tasks to other people, not necessarily as an admin, usually are in charge of day to day, but that's a little further down the line. So let's go on to the next slide here. So what should you document? Documentation. Why would you even document anything to begin with? Well, so you have paper trail, paper. In this day and age, you're trying to move away from it. Sorry, do like a Word document or a matrix on Excel, same kind of deal. But the reason policies are written to formalize and clarify the relationship of systems, should put up, and network admin as with user community. So you define, this is my job for you guys, this is what I do, here are the rules, yada, yada, yada. And they make it clear to your users how the requests for resources and or assistance are handled. The nature, style, and method of disseminating policies to your community. I should get rid of that name. Sorry. Various organization. Yeah, a bunch of different companies handle things differently. So, a public organization will reference users and treat them differently versus a private company sometimes, depending on what their function is. Like, accounting. I bring up accounting a lot because, money. I'm not saying it because I'm looking to be rich, but it's more when you talk about money, people tend to pay a lot more attention. Accounting's needs are going to be different than, let's say, the graphic department that designs websites. You don't have to tailor everything to what do they need access to versus them. You tell me, so I go about for you guys, this applies to you guys, this doesn't, back and forth, different rules. Procedures. So what are procedures? They're step-by-step sequence of actions that must be taken to accomplish a certain task. How do you patch a system? How do you update to the latest operating system? How do you migrate from one kind of old server to a nursery where it's now in support versus the old one, which isn't? There's procedures for all this that you can document. Backup. How do you do your backups? User accounts, how they're created, management, pruning, and all that kind of stuff. Deletion, you can have all this written down. So other than to have it documented and know how to do it, it's to cover yourself. So people can ask, well, see, in this procedures manual I have, this is what it says. I delete it after the person leaves and that's gone, within 48 hours of them leaving or whatever, it's gone. Email access, same kind of thing. That's another procedure you can do. So it's like automation. If a procedure is followed more than once, it's a good idea to document it. So you kind of document everything. Changes. A large part of system administrators' career revolves around making changes, configurations for maximum performance, tweaking scripts, scripting we'll get into a little later, modifying, configuring files. Whatever we had to modify. Usually just printing scripts, what we modify, and so on. All of these changes should be documented in some fashion. You just keep a log of what's changed and why it's changed, so you can reference it if need be. So I'm sorry if I look a little weird because of the light, but it's a very bright light. So communicate as much as possible. Well, why would you want to communicate? So you let people know you're doing something. Let me pull something up real quick. Let me go to my work remote portal here. And there's a specific kind of reason you communicate. Let me explain why. I'm logging into work. Don't worry, we're fine. Let's bring it over to the screen I'm recording on so you guys can see. And the reason I'm doing this is so you guys can understand about communication. That's the only reason. And it's Sunday, so I don't think my work machine's restarted yet. So let me bring this over here. This is my work machine. That's the name of my work machine. Don't worry about my desktop. It's cluttered. That's not what I'm here for. I'm just going to get into Outlook and then you can see what I'm talking about. If it ever decides to load, give me 1 second, guys. I will bring you back if I find my record button here. That's fine. It loaded. Yeah, I know. My work one's a mess. Don't worry. There's stuff in here that's not that big of a deal. Where's my Outlook in here? I know it looks like I'm putting around, but it's for a reason. You'll see. So, because there's a couple communication emails in here that I think are fantastic, and it helps me explain why we communicate as administrators. This is going to be mostly for my boss. Don't worry about this. Don't worry. What I'm showing you isn't like super confidential. It's not going to break anything or hurt anybody. People going out sick. That's not why we're talking about this. This is just general one. Sorry, that's for some other software on that. There's one. Let me find it. That's the Discord I've been talking about. I am sorry, guys. Here we go. Network maintenance. Here's what I'm talking about. So see, my boss, who's above me, the director of academic and user services, but he's above me, level 1 administrator. And he says, dear colleagues, he's being clear what's happening on this date in October. We did between this time and this time, the IT department will perform network maintenance on equipment in buildings G, H, I, and M. So you're letting them know what's happening during this time. Access to all network services, H drive, where you can store things, is what we have in network drive. Printing, because we use a print server. Terminal services, like remoting in. You can't remote into those specific buildings because they'll be down because you're switching it over. Internet access if you're on campus. Colleague, it's a software we use for something. Stack buildings, G, H, I, and M will all be intermittently offline and unavailable because they're rerouting the connections, because they're getting rid of an old building named R. That's essentially why. If you're working on site or remotely, you can hear these buildings. See, I probably will not be logged into blah, 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 blah. Once that's communication. That's why we communicate. So you're letting them know, hey, heads up, this is what's going on, yada, 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 blah, 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 blah. If they read it or don't, that's up to them. But you've done your part. It's communicated to them that on this date, that's happening. That's why you send out emails. You can send out wide messages. Again, that's what that's for. So that's just the example I was thinking of. I was thinking about communicate. So it's very important. This is called my remote portal. It will be up for a while, but I will show you guys what I'm talking about about work orders when I get to there. So the method by which you communicate with your users can vary according to your organization. Yeah, again, it can be email, it could be phone calls. Why you do phone calls in this day and age? Over Microsoft Teams, you can chat with people about it. Hey, heads up, your department's doing this, blah, blah, blah. Email or internal websites, you can put a banner up there. It says, hey, heads up, it will be available for this time, this time. To your users, what you're going to do, that's what it says in the email. Hey, we're doing this network stuff, we're moving things. What you were doing, moving stuff, blah, blah, blah. This won't be available to users, what you have done. And that's after normally we send one, but I don't think my boss sent one for that because not a lot of people were affected, saying, hey, it's been resolved, everything's good to go for these buildings. If you have any issues, please put in a request work order, yada, yada, yada. So that's why you have to communicate, because you all let people know what you're doing. Personally, I am not a mind reader, and I know most of you aren't either. If we were, we'd all win the lotto by tomorrow and be billionaires, right? So again, communication is very key, and I'm pointing to my right because it's on my right screen. So moving on. We got 20 slides to go, guys. I'm so sorry. I'm doing the best that I can with what I got. So know your resources, business, and users is a little more in depth. System administrators and mostly a matter of balance. System administration, sorry, is mostly a matter of balancing available resources against the people and programs that use those resources. So what do I mean? What are resources in anything? A company, computer, processing power, memory, disk space, network bandwidth, availability, and money in the IT budget. What do I mean by money? It costs money. Believe it or not, guys, to bring somebody on board. It costs money to buy equipment. It costs money to buy a headset, webcams. What if you have a department of 10 people and you only have 5 webcams to go around? Like, how's that going to work? You got to buy more. Again, resource allocation. Systems. So I get a lot of work orders. So that's to set up new systems for people. Like, oh, hey, we have so and so, they're coming on board tomorrow, and then you need a tower, 2 monitors, a webcam, a headset, everything that they go into the sun, and they're just like some lowly part-time employee, and we go like, okay, that's wonderful. Congratulations on your new hire, but do you have a spare computer you're going to give them or something? Because we don't. Here's the thing. Everyone imagines we have a warehouse full of old, machines that we can just repurpose. Well, all the machines we replace are 5 years old. They're not going to be used anymore. They're done. So people think they're free. I'm like, no, 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 no. It doesn't work that way. You got to tell us ahead of time. There's the procedures, again, we have in place. Like, tell us a month ahead of time. Try to find the funding. We can order you a machine, get it configured, and go from there. That's, again, a lot of people seem to forget that, but that's just an example of that. So when system admins work for a large multinational corporation or a small community college, that's what we do, it is important to understand the nature of the business environment and users of the system. So all departments have different kinds of needs. Some departments need more hands-on approach. Others are like, oh, okay, I get it. Others are like, no, we'll fight you tooth and nail because, oh, you have spare machines. No, I don't. And it's just a back and forth pendulum. Again, that's just because people skills learning how to work with people. So moving on to slide 9. So securing organization systems and networks. Remember I was talking about that spam email earlier about being offered a part-time job through Merced or accepting applications for this internship. It's $500 work from home, yada, yada, yada. That's called phishing. And I have a master's in cybersecurity, so I've seen this stuff and deal with stuff. So no matter what you think about the environment in which your systems are running, you cannot take security for granted. Security is one of the biggest things on the planet now. And AI became the hot topic, but no, you still got to be secure. For example, even standalone systems not connected to the internet may be at risk. Oh, how could that be at risk? I mean, if she's not connected to the network, right, you can't reach it. Wrong. About 90% of the issues that come with, I guess, compromisations is the best way I can put it, are internal, and they're called insider attacks. It happens a lot more than you think. Now, I'm not saying what happened recently with Merced was an insider attack. No, that was just someone clicking on something they should have clicked on by accident. People don't pay attention. You click on stuff, it happens. I'm not blaming anybody unless you can say one specific fault, but a lot of it has to do with just like, oh, that's blue link, cool, whatever. Oh, no, what did I, that's what happens. So it mentions that in here. So therefore, it's really important to consider security implications of everything you do. Yes, you got to think about how secure is this transaction in the sense of not every day, but like if it's a major thing, like, oh, say I'm moving an archive of documents that are from like 2010, need them for legal purposes. How available do I make these? You got to balance that. Like, who has access to this? Everyday users, or just the legal department, or just financial department? Because sometimes they get intermingled. Things like that we have to keep in mind. Okay, so let's say it's legal and financial, but who in legal and financial? Is it like level 1 lawyers, level 2 lawyers who handle like public stuff, and then like managers in financing, or is it just the bean counters in accounting? No, that's what you have to learn how to balance and things like that. When thinking about security, do not make the mistake of assuming the possible intruders will only attack your systems from the outside of your company. Many times, this is why I underlined it, and it's why I mentioned it. Many times, the perpetrator is someone within the company. Yes, insider attack. That's what's called. Look it up if you want. If you're curious about it, look it up. I can talk about more with you one-on-one if you want to know why that happens sometimes. Honestly, one of the major reasons people are disgruntled. Like, let's say you wanted this promotion, right? And person next to you gets it, and you're like, dude, they don't even work as hard as I do. And what I do, they're always calling out, and they got it. Like, you get mad. In general, just that's how it is. I'm not talking about any one of you specific. Or in general. I say in general a lot, don't I? I'm just trying to drive the point home that it can happen to anybody. And I'm not saying, passive promotion or whatever, it doesn't matter. But if some people feel jaded by it or whatnot. So next time you walk around the office, look at people around you and ask yourself this question: what happened if that person were to attempt to subvert our security? Not everyone's a criminal, guys. Don't assume everyone's doing anything bad, but normally it's just disgruntled employees kind of like tend to lean that way. So where am I? So give me 1 second, guys. I need some water. All right, guys, I have had my water. So let's go on to the next slide. So let's talk about planning. I know this stuff can be kind of dry. I'm going to try and make it as entertaining as possible. So plan and expect the unexpected. Let me go back to my remote portal. Let me bring it up. So let me bring up the work order system I was talking about. Let me pause it and I'll bring you back once I have it. Give me a quick second. All right. These are work orders. And what does this have to do with planning and expecting the unexpected? See this here? This is actually a big ticket. Let me click on it and you get more information off it. I'm just doing this to show you what it's like. So CTIS, we have received new SSDs, solid state drives for G4s and G5 computers and used by the counseling department. Just a department, Trevor just put in counseling. Don't worry, I know he's a really good nice guy.
Please work with Trevor to begin a replacement schedule. Here are the machines to be serviced. So that's every machine. Let's count 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 19, 20, about 30 machines roughly. Okay. Let me bring up the supporting document. Give me 1 second. So here is a document that was sent to me with every station, model, days are available, and all this. This is all part of planning. And the reason I'm saying this, why would you plan this? Because you're interrupting users' daily workflow. You have to figure out when they're available and not there, and when they're not remoting in. So that's 3 things I need to balance. And most of the time, if you look on here, when this person's available, there's no one at that station. This person Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday work because they're not there. It was available on this date. And these are all the people that were done and notes and all that. This is just a supporting document that you can attach to the work order saying, hey, here it's done. It's everything that we needed to get done. Sorry about that. My ear's a little itchy. And you go from there. But normally, see, this one was scheduled. That one's already done. That's right. Mark, yes. I didn't do that one, but I did most of these. So it turned out to be, 31 machines, actually. 32. There was one more they added in at the end that wasn't counted originally. So see, non-contract days that weren't working these days, that one was replaced on the 1st of September because it was available on a Friday and they weren't back for like another day or two. And it worked out. We had to, take the hard drive, their data's on there, we transfer it back and yada, yada, yada. But what happened here that I'm saying that was unexpected was the other 2 machines that came out of the woodwork, like, oh, hey, these weren't done. Like, whoa, wait a minute. What do you mean? Again, that's what we have to, it's a small example. Something like, the world caught on fire and everything doesn't work. But that's kind of what I was referring to about the unexpected. That's a little small instance of it, but it's nothing too nuts, So back to the slides. Let me pull this up in here. Okay, so we're back in the slides. That's just an example. Again, I will try to give you as many real life examples as I can with work. I will pull it in and out, and it seems like I'm all over the place, but don't worry, we should be good to go. Hold on, I got the text real quick. No, just my wife. Anyways, she's fine. But okay, so really no one can predict the future. Again, we're not all mind readers, right? However, with a bit of awareness, it's easy to read the signs of many changes, signs of system failure. So that, let me give you an example of system failure. Back when I worked for a for-profit, some of you may have heard the story, like 3 of you probably have me before. I worked for a for-profit dental college, and the user data was backed up from a server. It was supposed to be backed up external and to an external drive. I think it was like a 20 terabyte or whatever the heck it was, and it had to be plugged in via USB. Well, there are some laws that are called HIPAA laws. Maybe some of you have heard of. They're health identity protection something laws, and it's to protect the information and the identity of the users that are going through health services. So this is considered technically a health service because it has dental records, so that falls under health. And well, one day I went into work and I heard a beeping. I'm like, oh, that's weird. The back room's beeping. Why would the back room be beeping? Go over and look, and the server rack, it was just one rack. I'll show a picture of a server rack later, don't worry. And it's blinking red, like, oh, blinking red is not good. It means something happened. The hard drive light was blinking red on and off, just nonstop. It's like, oh, that's not good. Red usually means stop, right? And a red light, yellow means it's still kind of working, and green means go. If it's solid green, it's fine. So what ended up happening was the hard drive ate itself. Okay, great. So network admin's like, well, did you guys back it up? And he's like, no, we couldn't, yada, yada, yada. So that's a sign of system failure. It died. Again, that wasn't expected. None of us said, oh, let's go pull the hard drive today and forget it. We'll just ruin all the data. No, it happens. But that's why backups are important. But we couldn't back it up externally. It's just part of the law. But that's kind of sign of system failure. What's a bigger failure than a hard drive failure, right? Imagine if my hard drives failed in my tower down here, and you guys, I would have nothing right now. We would all be in, water or whatever. I didn't ask you guys for more time to get all this done for me, and I expend dates and I have a contingency plan. Don't worry, but hopefully I'll never have to use it. So signs of network failure, that kind of happens too. Intermittent, it's a big word, connectivity, where your network comes and goes, it crashes randomly. You go on YouTube, example a lot, you have background music or whatever, then it just stops, comes and goes, stops or stops completely. That happens, your connection gets dropped on your phone. Those are signs of network failure. You got to plan accordingly. Requirements of scalability, it's always getting bigger, right? If you work, let's say, at a catering business, and it starts off with 10 people. Your network's built to handle 15. Cool, you have some headroom. What if they just hire 10 more all of a sudden? You're like, wait a minute, there's 20 workers now that need a station. They need more network and bandwidth. You got to plan for all that. So that's what it means by scalability. You got to make it bigger as you go or plan for the future. Always try to be ahead of the ball. At least 10% is the goal. What do I mean by 10%? Oh, what's 10% of 10? Well, I don't know. Well, I know what? 20%, I'd say 20, just to be on the safe side. So 2 more. So, network over 12 people, so there's no bandwidth, or 15 or whatever you want to do. But again, the reason I'm saying is be as prepared as you can be so you're not caught off guard. Being caught off guard is one of the worst things that can happen to you. And it's not because I'm saying this like, oh, it's going to happen. No, but being caught off guard, then the first thing I think of if something breaks is the system administrator. Why? I don't know. There's an emergency, you got to be calm, but if everything else is on fire, like, what do? You can't handle everything. So as it gets snowballed. So I'm not going to get into it, but that's just the way I'm looking at it. So for the security and remote administration requirements, yeah, you got to learn how to balance security, who has access to what, for how long, and when they need it. Remote, you're going to allow people to remote in, or you're going to work from home remotely in the sense of, okay, I can administer from my office, but let's say we office Philadelphia. I got to be able to reach it. What can I do from here remotely versus do I have to fly out there once a month? Things like that are things you have to look into. Being able to read signs or respond to them makes it easier for system admin and users. Yeah, you can notice things before most people. You'll notice the sound of a hard drive dying if it's a spinner, platter drive, or you notice the computer's getting slow. You're like, okay, I gotta start planning for replacements in 2 years, or a year, 6 months. Get that ready ahead of time. Don't wait for something to crash in the sense of, oh, the computer burned out. Oh, I don't have spare. I was planning for this. I have spare hard drives. I have this. Always have a backup source in that sense. So who is this? Who is system admin? Small organization, I usually use sysadmin for system admin, just to shorten it. Don't worry. You can say system admin, sysadmin, I'm fine with it, or even admin. I don't have a problem with it. So can either be IT staff, can be entire IT staff, sorry. It can be just one man show. He wears, or she, or they, or them, or whatever pronoun you prefer. Wears multiple hats. They do phone support, order, install software and hardware, fix anything that breaks from phones to servers. It's a big gambit of things, right? Develop software, you coding, believe it or not, Python scripting, regular bash scripting. We'll do some bash again, don't worry. In a large, you can be a part of a large team like me. I'm part of a 10-man team. I'm a level 1 admin, there's level 2 and level 3, blah, 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 specialist instead of jack of all trades. I'm not that much of a specialist. You're like, what do you mean? Well, I kind of fall in between both. I do a lot of things. We just wear multiple hats, the entire team, but I handle all things up to a certain level. Somebody else above me handles certain things, and it just cascades that way because that's how we divvy up the work. And it works fine. But in larger organizations, some people are just in charge of databases. Other teams are part of a network team. We have a network team where I work at, and during the day, and they're in charge of the network side. File server admin, that usually falls downtown. People are like level 5s, way up there. Help desk worker, that's the guy just answers the phone, creates tickets, sends the tickets, tries to solve everything then and there. If not, he assigns it to us. Programmers, we have programmers, they handle all of the functions and specific software needs usually, except in the sense for the college, like, what's one I'm thinking about? Like, the print server. What's the other good one I can think of? Like custom applications, there you go. Like sometimes you ever go to a place, you got to log in with your student ID and it records the time you're there. That's something they do as programmers and stuff and deal with that kind of data flow. Logistics are usually handled by managers though, not by admins, in the sense of ordering equipment, by when. But if it's a one-man show like in a smaller, you'd be doing everything. So that's what that means. All right, guys, slide 12. We're almost there. I swear, 15 more slides. So what does a sysadmin do? You add or remove users. Yeah, when you go onboard new people, that's usually automated. They fill out a Google form, a digital document, and that's sent all the way through the server, creates the user's login, you generate the password or generates temporary password, then they update it. Remove users, you do manually, I prefer, to be honest. Because sometimes it comes up with, they're being terminated for whatever reason. You got to delete their account by this time, and you just do it manually, and you can check all the boxes yourself. Because believe it or not, sometimes automation does miss some things. So it's better to do it by hand. Backups you can automate all the time. That's not that bad to automate. We'll probably have to teach you guys how to do that too. Install new software systems. Yeah, we do that all the time. We're always installing software through what's something called SSCM. It's a software that lets us push things out to a bunch of users. We just have to have what's called the MAC address of a machine. Well, what's a MAC address? Every machine has a MAC address. My tower, your phone, your cell phone rather. I guarantee if you have a PS5, PS4, Xbox, Xbox One, a Switch. I'm trying to think what else has like a network cable, a PSP if there was still around. Should doubt. What else? iPads, big thing, right? They all have what's called a MAC address, and they're all unique. Well, what is Media Access Controller? That's what it stands for, and it's just this unique string of characters. I don't have a picture of here. It's in the next unit, or it's in next part of Unit 1, and I talk about what a MAC is. They're more in depth, but they're all unique identifiers. They're never all doubled. If they're ever doubled, that's something really weird. I've only seen it happen once, and that was a manufacturer, but that's not important. So troubleshooting, yeah, you do a lot of troubleshooting. You do a lot of fixing on hand or in software or remotely. We're talking to people, calling people. Excuse me. System monitoring, you have to keep an eye on things. That's usually, by your reports, get HEOs. Auditing security, that usually happens once a month. And that's designated by, you would be your manager, not you. Unless you're a one-man show, then you figure out when's the best time to do it. You know, do I do a security audit overnight, like on a Sunday remotely when no one's on, or do I do it in the middle of the workday? Things you got to keep into account. Helping users falls under troubleshooting, in my opinion, because you're dealing with people and dealing with the issues they're having with the machine. So that's kind of the daily life of a system admin. So user management, let's get a little more into users here for a minute. You create user accounts, which I mentioned, right? You're going to make user accounts when you get onboarded. Oh, I need a temporary one for like an intern. Okay, I'll make a temp account. What I mean by temporary, like, is it going to be active? How long do we have this guy for? Is it 6 months? If it's a year, make it a little more permanent. You can delete it later. How many rules do I give them? What rights do I give them? Let me see if I can pull something up. Let me pause this for a second. So this is what's called Active Directory users and computers. We usually call it AD or Active Directory. I'm poking around in here. Don't worry, I'm not going to delete anything or show you more info. But these are all student workers we have over here at Rancho Santiago. And let me just see if I can pull up their info. I'm just going to click on one. Don't worry, it's not going to. Yeah, see? So this is what account creation looks like. Well, don't worry, I'll have you guys do this. We'll get there. So see, address. That's just the school's address. Account. This is all the info. See, you can't change their password. They have a default password, and it's only available until this time. What are things you can do when you're setting up users? You can automate this task, but that's usually done. You know, telephone. You can fill all this out, and here's what they're members of, right? These are all different groups. So these groups all have different kinds of rights. This right here, the M365, I can tell you what it is because I know what it is. It's for Microsoft Office. We no longer do the key. We do it per user. So that means they have a license. They can use it on campus and use it at home. That's what that's for. Domain, they're part of our work domain. That just allows them to log in. The top one's a security one. That one, I have to remember what that does because I didn't do that. Security team did that. So I can find out if you're curious. Let me know. And this is just a new group for SAC. That's because it's, I believe, from a different side of the network that's logged in for what's called instructional when you're in class. So that's what that's for. But that's what that looks like, a user account in terms of properties and stuff. And I just picked them at random. So let me pause it and go back. Okay. Okay. So constantly requires automation. Yeah. I mean, yeah, consistency. Sorry. If you're always making accounts the same way, they are automated by this time. Startup dot files. That's a little old. I should have not put it in there. I think about it. That's only for batch scripting, and then like auto logins for like labs. You know, let's say it's lab A106, and you don't want them to log in with their student. You use that one, and it's just a bash script you run once. Bashing is a form of scripting. It just tells it, hey, only login is this. Hit enter. That's it. That's all you do. Usernames and user ID, namespace management. That was part of Active Directory. I just showed you. You can delete and remove people. I'm not deleting anybody because I don't want to break it and I get yelled at, and no one likes getting yelled at, right? Home directory backed up in quotas. That's handled by the team above me, but yes, they usually back that up once a month. So all that stuff is consistent. Roaming user accounts, like again, example, I showed you that on December 31st, that account is going to be expired, so it won't be able to log in. It'll still be in there, but if we no longer need it, right click, delete, it's gone, you're done. Constantly requires automation, not really. It's just what people recommend generally in grand sphere of system admin. I wouldn't automate deletion because again, it's on the least stuff behind. Learn everything, not just home directory and password. When you delete them in Active Directory, though, here, it deletes them permanently. They're gone. So it's as if they never existed. Unless you have a backup, you still have it there. Backups, by the way, I'm going to mention them, and I'll tell you this right now. We usually keep them for about 5 to 10 years. And there's a bunch of different backup methods. If you had me for server, I talk about it. I'll probably mention it here later down the line. But for right now, don't worry. We'll get to that eventually. So moving on. Excuse me. So here's everything else that you also got to deal with: adding and removing hardware, configuration, cable management. And cables don't look pretty; they're gonna look ugly. Device drivers, that's a big one. So when you install printers, which I can show you what that looks like on my end. Let me pull that up. It's not going to break anything, I promise. So let me show you what that looks like for us. This is just a glimpse. Don't worry. They're not going to get mad because I'm showing you guys. I'm not breaking any rules. Don't worry. But see all these printers? These are all printers hosted on a server with the driver. A driver is what tells the computer that, hey, I'm a printer. Let me print. Let me do things. This tells me the location where everything's at. Me personally, as an admin, I can connect to whatever because I have the rights, right? But most people don't. And side note, that got disabled a long time ago because Microsoft found a flaw in it that can compromise your machine. So that's why we have it this way. And this is just every printer we have under the sun. So that's just what I'm showing you what it looks like. Scheduling downtimes and notifying users. That's what my boss did earlier. That's for maintenance, upgrades, troubleshooting, repairs, issues. That's what that's for. Let me shrink this because that's actually on the slide. See, downtimes and notifying users. That's what we did earlier about, hey, on October 23rd, we're doing this, blah, 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 blah. Here it's done, yada, 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 and just all clear. Valuation to purchase, I mentioned, if you're a one-man show, you will be valuing when you purchase things. Usually there's a lifetime cycle is 5 years or 4, depending on the organization. And the capacity, I mentioned, how many servers do you need? What if it's, an enterprise of 300 people? You think one little old server is going to cut it? I highly doubt one server is going to cut it. You probably need several, 12. Do you do what's called virtualization, where you build, it's like a Russian nesting doll, if you know what those are, like a doll and doll and doll. You have one server that create 4 out of it because you use the physical one, then you use 3 virtual ones, yada, yada. You can get up to like 16 if you do 4 boxes by themselves and do 3 more. You can figure all that out. How much bandwidth do you need? How much network area? How much disk space do you need for all this? Is like a terabyte, a petabyte, which is a ton of space. They're using cloud. It's going to be integrated. Things like that, which you have to keep into consideration. So data center management. Well, what's a data center? That's where your servers are usually stored and housed. I didn't think of adding a picture. I'll take some pictures when I'm at work if you guys want, and I can show you what it looks like. Again, it's not that big of a deal. It's just like a big computer area. Nothing in half the time now because all of our stuff's virtualized. What's that mean? We put a box within the box within the box. So power, rack, environments, cooling, fire alarm, look, that's all very important. They generate a lot of heat, so it's always cold in there. Duh. Fire alarm, well, yeah, fires tend to happen. Electrical fires are terrifying. And I'll be honest with you, we had an issue once where an AC line blew underneath because our floor underneath is hollow. And it popped the hole in our fire suppression system and all what's called, we use halogen gas. And it just flooded the room. It was cloudy. We all had to get out. So little tidbit, things like that are what you manage to. If you're a one-man show, if you have a manager above you, they usually handle all that. But you get your hands in the sense of, hey, what do you think? Or what's your opinion? That's how they usually do. On to slide 15, guys. We have 12 slides to go. So let's talk about data backups here. So backup strategy and policies. Okay, so what's your backup strategy? Do you do what's called hot site, that you back up once a week and it's literally a 1-for-1 copy of everything over? Is it a cold site that's backed up once a month, 1-to-1 copy at the end of the month? So if an issue happens, let's say next month, you have last month's reports, everything, you're fine, whatever you need. Policies, how often do you back up? Scheduling, when? That's what I mentioned, every week or a month. Some organizations do it once every 2 weeks, once every 3. It just depends. Capacity planning, how much space do you need to store stuff? How long do you keep those backups for? Normally the backup, again, you keep them for 5 years at minimum now. Used to be 2. That just changed a while ago. Location, on-site, do you have it in the same server area? Or what if it got flooded? That's gone. Or is it off-site, somewhere remote where you don't have to worry about it and someone else manages it through a third party or whatever? What software are you going to use? There's a bunch of different options. Again, I will talk to it when we get there. Just give me an overview of it. Performing backups and restores. Is it automated? Are you doing it manually? Normally the backups you can do automated, which is fine because it works. The restores, that would depend on what's called your emergency plan or recovery plan. Sorry. That can be automated depending on the plan, but some places like to do it by hand because they want to make sure it goes back to a state that's very stable. That's all tested, and that's just something down the line. Again, I'm just talking about it off the top of my head because it's like, okay, how do some places do it? I'm sure Microsoft does differently than Google, for example. So monitoring backups, was the backup successful last month, last week? Did it not work? Why didn't it? Checking logs is very important. These are the errors they encounter with, let's say, XYZ users. That's why you can back them up. Oh, well, why was it causing this error? They're no longer active, things like that. Verifying media, you got to verify the backup is complete in the sense of, okay, is all the data saved perfectly fine, or is it corrupted? You would have to load the backup onto a test environment. Excuse me. That's something else you would check later. Or have you assign someone else, or you do it in between, or poke around and figure it out. You can have like a test case, for example. I'm just thinking about it. That's what I'm talking about. So software installs. Mainly consist OS installs. Yeah, you just do that when you get out of the box and hook up to your network and image. Off to the races. You don't have to worry about it. Evaluation of software, you would have a test machine where you install software prior to pushing it out. You just don't push software out of the willy blue, and then you're like, oh, it broke something. Then you're really in a world of hurt. So finding and building open source software, we've kind of moved away from that, but some places still use some open source software. For imaging, that's what we call it when we deploy a machine, install Windows on it. We used to use what was called FOG, free open source imaging software, and it was just called FOG for some reason. And that's why I mentioned open source. But it's still viable in some instances. There's some backup stuff you can do too that's free, and it works pretty well. Like I think one was called Foxfire, not Mozilla. They have a different backup software, and it worked okay. I used it before. Purchase of commercial software. Yeah, you do that for Office. Your licenses for Office, licenses for Windows, licenses for like Photoshop. That's common. Managed software installs, you will make what's called a packet, and they would push out to the machines. You would specify which machines and which names get everything, which ones don't. The employees have the access. The employees have access to all the software, only specific things like Office. They don't have access to Adobe Illustrator. They only need Adobe Acrobat. Depending on the license, it's what you can use or what you get. Distributing software to multiple hosts. Yeah, you push that out as a task through SSCM. I'll see if I can get that recorded and how it works so you guys can see it. I'll hopefully get it this week. I'll talk to one of my level 3 admins, and I'm sure won't have a problem with it. Package management. That's why I mentioned my packages. For example, let me give you a good one here. Engineering. They use a software called AutoCAD. And then you have automotive, the automotive software that's really specially designed for cars, but they take via USB. Would automotive need access to AutoCAD, and would engineering need access to automotive stuff? No. You would just define what goes where. That's what packet management refers to. Managing multiple versions of software packages. Normally, if you make it for one semester, let's say, for example, because we do it for most of the updates come out, I'm trying to think, and middle of fall, believe it or not, for us, for Adobe, for AutoCAD. Those are the big ones. Rivet, Maya, you probably heard of them. If not, well, not yet. Congratulations. Those come out like the middle of fall, so we push them out by spring. So they're only like a generation behind. And once they move to like, let's say 2024, we retire 2023 right after. But after we test for a month, we have to test it for a month prior to pushing it out. So we don't push that out till probably the December break, when for us it's only before the 2-week Christmas break. That's what we get. We do all the work for those 3 weeks because everyone starts leaving literally by the end of the first week of December-ish, second week. All that, campus is dead the following week. And during that week, nobody's there. So we can just update everything under the sun and it's not going to break. And if it does, we can fix it because nobody's there. We don't have to worry about it, right? So moving on. Sorry, guys. Just trying to think off the top of my head often we do this because we do it, but not too often, Patching, updating software is normally done after hours when nobody's there. Like, for example, I'm remoted into my work machine right now, right? It's set to restart every Sunday to patch and every Wednesday to patch. That's just how it is. Because some machines weren't getting it, so I did Wednesdays too. Why? I don't know. Scheduled downtimes and notify users. That was the whole network thing I talked about, but you usually don't just, oh, hey, we're going to repair the network in the middle of Wednesday or do some update. No, you do it off hours. That's why it's done that way. Slide 17, guys, 10 more to go. So, software update difficulties. Sometimes you don't have physical access to what you're trying to push, believe it or not. You remote into a server and do it half the time. I can remote anywhere, but things break. Update process should work without physical access. Yeah, it should be standalone. You just tell, hey, push and go, and leave it alone. Host may not be in what's called a known state, so it's either not powered on, it's either stuck in a loop, or it's trying to boot to the network for some weird reason. Prior updates may or may not have happened. That happens. Things get buggy. It'll get corrupted. You could roll back to a previous update. Like sometimes, not sometimes. Normally, when you do an update on a server, it will perform an automatic backup right before you push out the update, just in case something happens. So you can revert back to a known good working state before you push the update. So that's pretty common. System administrators may have reconfigured. Yeah, sometimes you do change some configurations, but the patch wouldn't really break it, because a lot of the patching is just on the operating system side of things, not on the user's database side of things. Like your login side, that doesn't change. So host may not be there. Yeah, but that wouldn't really matter in the sense of if a host may not be there. People don't have to be there to attend these machines. They're in the back somewhere and they don't look at them. Portable computers may not be on your network. That is true. So laptops are a big thing of any organization. And if you push out security updates and they're not there to get them, how are they going to get them? They are bringing the laptop to work. So what if the laptop hasn't been on the network for 12 months and you issue what's called a new wireless internet certificate? They don't have it. So they can't connect to the Wi-Fi. So that's an issue you would have to resolve, and that's where that comes in. So most hosts may have live users. What if the machine, like mine for right now, for example, remote into's, I'm using it, right? I'm using it because I'm showing you guys stuff. What if they're trying to update it? It won't let them update it because I'm logged in. That's what that means. Some updates require no user access or reboots. Yeah, some do. It's kind of rare though. So let's move on to what's called the state of machines, which I mentioned in here a little bit when I talked about may not be known in a known state. So these are the states. Now, I mean like California, Mexico, New Mexico, Arizona, no. So a new machine, it's brand new out of the box. Clean machine is it's installed. You install the operating system. You install Windows off what's called your image, but you haven't pushed out Adobe, you haven't pushed out Office, you haven't pushed out AutoCAD. I see AutoCAD because it's just something that's used for a living department. Whatever the department needs, like biology, you haven't pushed out what they configured correctly for the operating environment. So let's say, I think one I haven't used right now. Photoshop, art, art doesn't have much. I'm just trying to think of a department that has like needs. Anthropology, let's go with that. Let's say they use software that's specific to measure bones and catalog cavemen, Australopithecus, for example. That's what I remember from my class. And they need that specific software called like Anthro now. So you push it out, it's installed. You did it's a new machine, cool. Installed the operating system, you pushed out, now it's configured. So there you go, you're configured, you're good to go. Then you also have what's called unknown. So let me see. I'm trying to think if there's any unknown machines I can think about. I can show you what they look like if I get some. So let me go to here. Give me a second. Let me pause it and bring it up, guys. All right, perfect example. So let me scroll down real quick so I get a green check mark. Oops. See how that's green? That means it's there and it's ready to go. Let me type in my machine's name. See, I'm there. I'm green. Cool. Let's rock and roll, right? It means the machine's available. It's in a good state. Let me go back to devices. There's all my user accounts that'll be listed. It's not that big of a deal. Don't worry, you can't do anything with their information. There's nothing there to use or look. But you see this X? Maybe it means it's off or it's unknown. I don't know what's going on. That's what it's referring to, but unknown in the prior. Sorry, in the prior slide, in the slide I'm talking about right now. So let me shrink this down. And that's what unknown means. Misconfiguration, newly discovered, or broken. Newly discovered usually show up with a question mark. I don't have anything new I could show you, but imagine instead of the X, it's like a purple question mark. And then there's retired and surplus. Well, what do you mean retired? Remember how I talked about in 5 years, you just retire it, you scrub it. So what that entails is you copy the user's info onto the new computer after the login, so it's all there. You add the printers or whatever. And then you take the old machine, excuse me, take it back to the office. Go to your inventory and catalog this machine with this name. It should be duplicated to the new name. It should be the same. Like let's say it's Santa Ana College, so it's S, letter M for M building, right? SM, then the number 100 for the room. Then the sub room, if there's a sub room, there isn't. Let's say it's 001, so it's S Santa Ana M building M for maintenance or whatever. Compute in room 100 001 because it's the only machine. So 1, right? Now you have an X to it, then there's a new one with the same name above it with a green check mark. And you mean the green check mark's new, then you have the model number, what it is. I can show you. Give me a segundo here, and let me pull up what's called inventory. Our inventory sucks in the way we do it, but it's useful for showing. All right, I'm pulling up the master list for inventory. We currently have it this way. Don't ask me why. So production means it's out in the wild. It's good to go. I'm trying to find something that's warehoused. Stock, that means we just have it sitting there. Sorry, I know. I'm not trying to put it all. See, warehouse. It means it's gone. It's a laptop. No longer there. We put it to warehouse. The name isn't red. If it's red, it's duplicate, but it's not the big of a deal. That means it's gone. So what do we do once it's gone? Let me treat this again. We grab it, collect it, take out the hard drive, keep the hard drive separate because you go destroy it, pull the RAM, put it on a pallet, send it off to the warehouse, and it's never seen again. That's the end of it. Because warranty's out and it's up for replacement. That's what that means. I know it's a small way of explaining and showing it, but that's kind of what I have as a record. So people say, hey, I need the old laptop. I'm like, dude, it's gone. You got the new one. Sorry. Moving on. So troubleshooting. This is one of your main things you're gonna do a lot more than you can imagine. It's like your daily bread and butter. Problem identification. You gotta figure out what the problem is. Who let you know? Did the user tell you? Was there a log? Was there a program monitoring that went flashed red that told you this is going on? Tracking visibility. That's where my work orders come in that I was talking about. Oh, not that. I promise that wasn't it. Sorry, guys. That's just the module. My mistake. Wrong system. Lord. Of course, because I need it. I don't have it. Give me a second. That's what that looks like. This is all my work orders. Sorry, guys. That's what you use to keep track of. Let's see. This guy wants access to a drive. This was requesting iPads, which they're already configured, which I'm not going to talk about much in this class. They don't really pertain to what we do anymore or here. This is more for computer-based stuff. Like, see, this is how you keep track of all your stuff. See, this guy told me thanks because I helped him out. And that was it. That was that. Then here's what I did. Notes of how I did it. Yada yada yada. That's what that's referring to. So if you have questions about how that works, I can go into more detail, but it's pretty simple. Just then email like, hey, this isn't working to the help desk and generates this assignment, sends it to me. See, I installed the plugin, he was requesting this. Can't find where it went. Well, that's not on me anymore. It's already there. I guarantee it. So tracking visibility, that's what that's for. That's why you email, and it replies an email to them and to me, and so we have tracking information. I'm sure you just know you're working on the problem, so that's when you tell them like, hey, I'll be there at this time, or let me look into it, and buy yourself time, because again, we don't know everything, right? You find the root cause of the problem, solve it, mark it as solved. You apply the solution, then mark it as solved, make sure you solve it, you're good to go. You can sometimes provide a workaround. For example, one we had was where Adobe Sign wasn't working. It was a big issue. It took a year to figure out why, and I'm not gonna get into it. So the workaround was for us, okay, we're making a note of this. We're gonna look into it more. Use the online version of Adobe Sign, which worked because it wasn't on the computer, which would tell us the issue was on the computer, not on the software itself, on the network side of it, because it was on the web. So that's how we did it. Then once we solved the problem, we applied the patch and it fixed it. So that's what I'm referring to as something temporary. Hopefully that makes sense in what I'm referring to. So let me go back to my controls. So on to slide 20. So performance monitoring. Automatically monitor systems for problems, performance with CPU, memory, disk, and network and problems. Disk space is full, error, logs, security is all generated for you when you log into a server. If you have me for server class, that's the first thing you see when you log in is all logs. It's just right there in your face. Log rotation and backups. How often is logs cycled? Backups happen on this day, that day, blah blah blah. Successful, unsuccessful, it'll tell you. I might try to have you guys perform a backup, but they require a lot of space. So depending on your hardware, we might not. I might simulate one. Excuse me, and we'll go from there. Provide data for capacity planning. Yeah, you always do that. It's just part of life when you work as an admin. Commits management for need for hardware. That you kind of have to, but kind of don't. Some managers are kind of like, hey, we need more equipment. It is what it is, right? I mean, you can't have a business if you have enough machines with enough people. 15 machines for 20 people. Also rotating shifts, or they all need one. You got to figure it out, right? And the other big part of being part of an admin or admin team or help desk, whatever you want to look at it, because help desk kind of does fall under admin, believe it or not, administrator. It's helping users. It requires a tracking system, which I've shown you in my work screen there. Ensure that you don't forget problems. Yeah, that's all there. It's all ticketed. It's called tickets. It's all there. It's all documented, what we're doing, why we're doing it. Like, hey, here's what I did. Check it. It worked great. And that's why they know you're working on it. It reduces interruptions, so they're aware of you're working on it. And then there's status queries. So they're like, hey, how far is it? Normally, we try to solve things within 24 hours. It's just how we are. But believe it or not, if people are very comfortable with you, they will message you directly through Teams, Microsoft Teams, or they will email you or call you. And you're like, there's an order of operations things, guys. It's called the SOP, Standard Operating Procedure, and that's policy. It's under, hey, you got to either email, it's called email the help desk or call the help desk first. You don't reach out to us directly. The reason being is, I told you, remember, we're working on stuff all throughout the day. Normally we're in the middle of something, or we're in the warehouse. We call it the warehouse, but it's data center. But if we're in the back and boxing stuff, imaging stuff, I'm not going to be there to pick up the call or talk to you, even though I have it on my phone 9 times out of 10 personally. I won't reply because they're trying to jump ahead of the line. You have a flow of things. Normally it was what's called FIFO, first in, first out. The first person that gets you the help desk ticket to you is the person you're working with. And if you can solve it for them on to the next person, and so on and so forth, right? You cascade that way versus someone calls you and to try to get ahead of the person you're working on right now. That's not cool, but leave it be. That's just how I, try to hopefully break it down so you guys understand. If this is kind of confusing or weird, please let me know. I will try to make this a little more clear. So, where was I? Let management know what you're doing, but management sees what you're doing though with the tickets, so you're fine. Use your documentation and training. That's a big one, but that's what you put in there. Like, hey, I did this, this, and this. Please, in the future, follow these steps. And 9 times out of 10, people are pretty good about following it, and they're fine. Training, you don't do that often anymore. Normally, it's done by third parties that people hire outside because you are, as an administrator, usually pretty busy. And I think the only person that does trainings for us is our security team. It's a one-man show, so he'll do it on a needed basis. It could be like 5 people. If it's, I think, above 5 people, he does it. Under 5, you can't. So he'll send them like videos of how to do it this way or why you do things specifically that way. And it explains it pretty clearly. So document software, hardware, printers area, that's all documented and where we have everything. I'll show you where we have the printers and the names. Software we have, depending on the area, counseling is a big one they use. Well, for example, let me backtrack that. Not just counseling, but everybody in our domain uses Office, right, in Adobe. So they all have access to it. That's not a big deal. But for example, counseling uses something called Laserfish. I don't know if they use it at Merced, I'm not sure. But for us, they use it for accessing student data files in the sense of, your grades, your transcripts, that's where all that's housed. So they need that installed on all counseling machines. So that's what that means for documenting software stuff. But by area, it's by department too. So you'll know who needs what. um, accounting, for example, like financial aid, they'll use Excel a lot. They may use QuickBooks here and there, and that's what they need specifically. They don't need AutoCAD or, or Illustrator or Photoshop or anything like that. So that's part of documentation, but it's also by department. They usually tell you what they need to. 9 times out of 10, you don't have to tell them. They tell you. So it kind of works out. So what makes a successful admin? What makes you be a successful system administrator? Customer oriented. Remember, that's the first thing I mentioned was customer service. Roughly, it's like I said they won't talk about it much in here, but I'm going to talk about it because yeah, you kind of got to have thick skin to work in this because people will get frustrated and yell at you. It's happened. That's where you go like, oh hey, I'm here to help you. I understand this is a problem you're having. You reiterate to them, just so you bring them down a notch or two, and then show me what it's starting on edge. Show me what it's doing, and let me see what it does. And then let's switch sheets. I just say, hey, let me get in the driver's chair, or hey, let me get in the captain's chair. Let me take a look. You show me what's done. I can take it from here. They're pretty happy, and they calm down, and they offer you candy. Believe it or not, I get bribed with candy. Usually it's Whoppers. I like Whoppers, or what's the other ones? Jolly Ranchers, and that's not the point. But that's all because of your, how you treat people, etc. Ability to deal with interruptions. Oh my lord, interruptions are a daily thing. And in the military, it's called a frag order. Like, oh hey, I'm gonna go, unload the truck. No, you're not. You're gonna go run 3 miles. So it's frag order. Like crap, there goes my day, right? Time and pressure. Yeah, some of the things you're working on are pretty sensitive in terms of like get it done now. You got to prioritize tasks. Communication is important too. That's why I mentioned talking to people, emailing, like, hey, I'm working on it or this. Service providers, not system police. Yeah, you provide a service. You're not the system police. That's true. That's what you automate your security software for. It scans and does it. You don't do that all the time. It will generate reports and yada, yada, yada. You're providing a service. You're providing documentation. You're providing training. You're providing support, essentially. That's what you do as an admin. Technical knowledge, you got to have, the skills to back it up in the sense of like, well, it could be this, it could be that. Let me give you an example of technical knowledge and how I break things down for people. Sometimes people approach me, hey, can you help me outside of work? I'm like, no, unfortunately, I cannot. It goes against what I do, but I can guide you in the sense of memory for a computer. Or how much memory do I need for a laptop I want to buy? Well, let's break down memory. I always use this as an example. I use it in server classes. I've used it in forensics classes, but I'll explain memory to you guys pretty simply right now. So let's say we have a freeway. Well, freeway, right? Road. And it goes to Sacramento. Just using something close to you guys. I'm assuming it'd be Sacramento or San Francisco, however you want to look at it. Going north in traffic, in rush hour traffic. North, 4 lanes. So it goes, 4, right? 4 lanes. 2 north, 2 south. How bad is that in rush hour? Pretty terrible. Now, what if we double it to 8? 4 north, 4 south. A little bit better in rush hour, but still kind of heavy. Let's double it again to 16. So 8 north, 8 south, compared to 2 or 4 or 8. How is that in rush hour? That's RAM. That's how many windows you can have open. That's going to be multitasks you can do. It all depends on how much RAM you have. Personally, my machine has 64 gigs. I'm not worried about it. But that's just an example. I just, the more horsepower you have, sometimes you need it for everything else. When you virtualize stuff, you need a lot of horsepower and space. So keep that in mind. We'll talk about that a little later when I get to it. Just give you guys an example. I'm not doing it to show off, but just technical knowledge. You'll build it as you go. Don't worry. You're not going to know everything off the top of your head. Again, that's something you learn with time and you get into things and you understand things. Like, for example, me personally, I like using Raspberry Pis a lot for things around the house. I made a security system with it. I just record around and make my own DVR on micro SDs, and cool. I can backtrack and look at stuff. People walk by my house at 3 in the morning. What the hell are they walking by? But again, that's stuff you'll tinker with down the line, like emulation and things like that for yourself. And not going further down that rabbit hole, but again, that's stuff I've done. So hardware, network, and software knowledge, that's all under technical knowledge. Do you need an i9? Do you need an i7? And I mentioned Intel because I use mostly Intel. You need AMD Ryzen's 5. What's the big one? Threadripper, 32 core. What kind of network do you need? What kind of topography in the network do you need? How much speed do you need? Topography I'll get into in terms of mesh, bus. There's a bunch of different kinds. Star topography looks like a star. And I explain it in the network video. And I'm telling you this now. I should have mentioned it much earlier. It's from my server course, but it's relatable. It's the exact same stuff I'm going to cover. So don't worry, it's old recording, but it's still on the nose, Debugging and troubleshooting, yeah, you're gonna figure out why the software crashed. Look at event viewer, like why is the software not loading even though it tries to load? Sometimes you get an error. What does this error mean? How good is your Google Foot? I like to call it, because sometimes you got to look up the error code. You just don't know. Well, a big one back in the day, from probably before most of you were born, back when Windows 98 second edition was on the planet, and then there was XP, then Vista, then 7, then 8, 8.1. I can go on with 10, where I'm still on, and now 11, which I don't care for, which I'll get to later. Personally, I'll get to it eventually. There was an error code called IRQ underscore not underscore less underscore equal. Could never figure it out when I was younger. As long as like 12. Yes, I'm ancient. I don't want to get into it. I know I don't look old thing. I'm not trying to throw jazz at myself here, but what it wound up being was it was a driver issue, but I couldn't tell which driver, because back in the day, drivers or controllers, as they're called, controladores, tell your machine like, hey, for example, here's my Razer mouse I'm holding. Yeah, okay. So hey, I'm a mouse. Oh, okay, cool. Well, back in the day, drivers were very not sketchy or janky, but very hit or miss. That's the best way I can describe it. So sometimes you will plug in like a flight stick if you played flying games. Yes, I'm a gamer. I do play games here and there. And you would have to load the software. It came with what's called a CD. I know some of you may not know what that is, and that's okay. Or a floppy, believe it or not. Or you download it at the time when it first started becoming prevalent, where you would download things and you would install it. But sometimes the driver was too old, wasn't compatible, or just wasn't ran right by whoever wrote it, and it would crash your system and you get that error. But now that you have that error, it would happen randomly, even if you uninstalled it, because it kept in driver library. You didn't know where the heck it was in Windows 98. So a lot of things have changed since then. Now you plug it into Windows, you usually find your printers, you can find your keyboards, your mice, anything except your video cards. Again, this is like 20 plus years ago, but it's just an example of what I'm referring to as debugging and troubleshooting. We're like, well, crap, what I plug in? Well, why isn't it working? For example, here's a good troubleshooting one that it's pretty easy that you guys can just literally learn right now. Printers, probably the bane of my existence as a technician slash administrator slash tech geek. You ever had a USB printer? I know USB, right? Oh, what the hell? Why would you plug it in? It's all wireless now. I'm like, cool, whatever. When you print, you ever seen just print like a bunch of random characters like A's, B's, stars, asterisks, dollar signs, like a bunch of just gibberish? If you ever see that on a printer, any printer, the issue is the printer's driver. Download it from whichever manufacturer and make sure you use what's called a PCL6 driver. You will see it. It'll say PCL6 driver from the printer, whatever printer model is. Download it, install it, and then you print a test page, it'll print normal. That resolves your issue. I'm just letting you know because that's a very common issue you'll see. So, time management. Yes, time management is very important because, again, you're doing a million different things. We're almost there, guys. Slides. You're doing a million different things at once. It's like running around with chicken, your head cut off. For example, I usually have 3 or 4 projects in rotation, and I'm okay. I'm here on this one. I'm here on that one. I'm here on this one. I'm here on that one. Doing this, and then I get a phone call. Hey, are you free to come by room X? Blah blah blah. I'm like, oh, hey, give me like half an hour. How urgent is it? Oh, well, I'm gonna put in a work order. Okay, great. If they don't get to it, let me know. That's how I usually resolve it. Like, if you don't hear back from them like in 30 minutes, let me know. I'll take it over, and then I can grab the work order, and it's mine, and then I can go help them. Well, normally I try not to again answer. Again, it just depends how good. Sorry, itchy leg. And I disappeared. Oh no, I'm in the ocean. No, I'm totally right here. I'm a dork. Okay, I'm just trying to make you guys laugh. I know this stuff can get dry, but automate everything possible, yes, but not almost everything. There's some things that should not be automated because sometimes the human touch is more important than being an automated task. Sometimes they'll get lost in the sense of automation. People feel like, oh, I'm not interacting with you. Why are you even here? That's kind of why. Ability to prioritize tasks, urgency, and importance. So if your boss knocks on your door and tells you, you need to go do something, you go do what your boss tells you. Essentially is what that's referring to in the sense. So let's move on, guys. We're almost done, I promise. Like I said, 5 slides to go. So here are what the guiding principles of system admin are. Simplicity. Choose a simple solution that solves the entire problem. Simplicity is key and best. Try to make it simple. Don't overwhelm yourself. Clarity. Choosing a straightforward solution that's easy to change, maintain, debug, and explain to other system administrators. Essays. I use essay also, by the way. Well, why? I mean, keeping it simple. You can explain it like I explained RAM to people. That's how I explain it to coworkers. I send them to try my laptops. They're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So I know what to look for. Keep it easy, and people will love you for it. I don't try to throw too much techno mumbo jumbo at any of you. Not because I'm not saying you're dumb. That's not the point of this. Okay, I'm just trying to make it so you guys can understand it and see where I'm coming from. That's why I'm like, oh, let's break it down and try to make it simple. Because if I say, well, when you open a program, it loads 0 1s from the table and it points to the class and it points to, what else can I point to? I'm trying to think. Like an encapsulated subclass, and it pulls in, a circular array, and then the circular array has to point to properties, and the properties, I guarantee you, I lost like a third of you, and that's not what we're here for, right? We're here to learn and understand things, and I don't like to get too complicated with this stuff because The more complex this gets, the harder it gets to explain. So if you keep it simple to explain to everybody, not just you, not just me, people understand you. When people understand you, they get you. And when they get you, they work with you. And when they work with you, you solve it. And when you solve it, they're happy, you're happy. It's a good day. Just how I see things, okay? Automation, yeah, I use software replace human effort in certain things, not everything. I'll think of more examples later down the line. When I get to full automation, we'll probably automate some tasks just for, giggles and fun stuff in server. When we're using server 2016, I'll make a note of it. Communication, like I said, email. I will email people randomly. I'll put announcements up here on Blackboard. You'll see I'll be as communicative as I can. I'll probably mention this during the orientation, which will be on Tuesday, which I will post about. To get a hold of me, guys, again, email me. This is my phone. It's very hard to get my wife. Email me, message me on Canvas. I get it directly to my phone in terms of an email. I can reply to you. It's the best way to get a hold of me. I'm only literally email/Canvas notification away. You guys need something, I will do my best. My office hours, like I said, are 7:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. If I'm not there, if that doesn't work for you, if I'm not there, I'm running around campus, please be patient. Email me if I'm not there. And let me know, hey, those hours don't work for me. Can you meet at this time? I will do my best to accommodate you as much as I can so we can solve whatever issue you're having or what you're stuck on, explain it better. You want to stop by, say hi, you want to ask me my opinions about things, please feel free. That's what I'm here for. So basics first, going back into this, solve basic infrastructure problems before moving on to advanced ones. Again, always start with the basics because 9 times out of 10, I'll give you a great example of this. All those printers I showed you earlier, all those printers all located. Sometimes I get phone calls or work orders that say, hey, we can't print. It's a whole department, another department. It just starts trickling in. Like, all these people can't print. Like, oh, okay, let me go run over and hit the restart button physically, not through software. Because sometimes a physical restart, oddly enough, will solve that issue 99.9% of the time. So that's something you just got to be aware of. Start with the basics. Always the basics usually lead you where you need to be and help you solve the problem 99.9% of the time. You do get into more advanced stuff, which I can talk about later, but I don't want to right now because, again, I don't want to have you guys giving the screen glazed over looks because I'm not there in front of you, right? I'm just this floating head in the ether with PowerPoint slides. I pray this is recording. If I didn't, yeah, we're good. We're recording because, nobody wants to work 3 times over. So organizations, these are pretty big organizations that have been around for a while when it comes to system administration. One is USNIX, Advanced Computing Systems, LISA, Large Installation Systems, and SAGE, which is System Administration Guild. Why they have an E, I don't know. If I know, I'll tell you. I might make credit for no reason. But SAGE has been around from I can recall, I've seen them more than anything, and they're pretty big, and they're pretty common in terms of rules. They will usually set the guidelines. So SAGE's goals are to advance the status of system administration as a professional. I mean, you're a professional if you work as a sysadmin regardless. Establish standards of professional excellence, which just mentioned this, they establish standards. Recognition of those who attain them. I think they work almost as similar to CompTIA in the sense of industry standardizing. They'll have guidelines for improving technical managerial capabilities of members of the profession. Yeah, that's what they do. Promote activities that advance the state of the art of the community. That should not be a bullet point. But that's it, guys. You have made it. This is slide 27, the conclusion. So system administrators may look after hardware, operating systems, and software, which I talked about, configurations, applications, or security, all of those things. Themes, guideline, which make up philosophy of system admins are automate everything, document everything, and automate almost everything. Communicate as much as possible. Communication is key, guys. You got to email people, let them know what you're doing. If you're doing over the weekend or in the middle of something, like, hey, I'll get to you. Again, if you acknowledge it, they see it, they're good. You'll be fine. Know your resources, users, and business. That's important. Know what you have on hand that you can use to fix things. Know how your users behave and what they need, what their needs are, and how they interact with you, so you know how to handle specific people differently. Do you white glove it? Is it a CEO or an accountant who's just being grumpy because they're having a bad day and they need a sandwich? And you can offer them, hey, be with you, give me a minute, and something. You good? Need anything else? Be friendly. What kind of business do you work in? Is it fast paced? Is it public? Is it federal? Is it government? Federal and government go hand in hand. Is it state? Is it law enforcement? All kinds of different gambits of people. Secure organization systems. I'm touching on that briefly, but make sure you have security in place. We will get more into that further down the line. I just briefly mentioning it. Plan it and expect the unexpected. Remember, that's one of the most heavy things you will deal with in terms of upgrades and projects and deployments and things like that. So this is it, guys, for this part of Unit 1. I will see you in the next one. It will be an older video for some of you. We'll be like, oh, man, you're talking about this stuff again. Some of you will be new, and that's okay. Again, you have questions, reach out, email me, message me on Canvas. I will post about Discord. I'll talk about that more in orientation, and we will go from there, guys. So I will see you all in the next video, and then I will see you in Unit 2 next Sunday. Till then, take care. Have a good week. Catch you later.